Pat. Thank you guys so much for having me. A lot of you guys showing up in your houses here for me. I really appreciate it. So yeah, I met Pat at Hooper's Creek. I was dropping off queens. I've established a relationship with them this year through Lewis Cobble was the one that suggested it originally. And it's been great. They've really worked with me to get my queens out there to the community when people need them in a pinch or when they want to make splits or try new genetics out. They've been able to pick up their queens through Hooper's Creek, which has been awesome. So I gave another presentation recently, and it was on the table to give to you guys. But it's a really long presentation, and I've done it and I've recorded it, and it's available on my YouTube. And it's like basically all the things that I think will help a new or intermediate beginner beekeeper succeed and keep their bees healthy and alive. So if you're interested in that, you can email me or you can look it up on YouTube under Moral Bees, the Successful Apiary. And it's a whole lot of information about genetic queens, treatments, when to treat, if you don't want to treat, what your other options are. So that's a real big presentation I did that you guys can see if you're interested. But today's presentation I'm really excited about. Now that I got that other presentation out of the way, which was kind of like just to get all the beginner and intermediate beekeepers kind of up to speed on what they need to do to keep their bees alive. I felt like that was something I had to do to put out there to help everybody, especially since we haven't been able to meet in person as much with our bee clubs and mentors and whatnot. But now that I got that out of the way, I can tell you guys about my favorite thing, which is queens, and about my time with Sam Comfort of Anarchy Apiaries in South Florida this winter. I'm going to backtrack just a little bit, tell you a little bit more about myself. This is my 7th year in beekeeping. I'm a North Carolina journeyman certified through the State Beekeepers Association. I'm working on my master beekeeper credits right now. I took the test and I got through that, but the credits, there's a lot of them. So I'm working on that now. And this year is my first year as a sideline queen breeder. I'm permitted and certified through Lewis, through the state. And that's all thanks greatly in part to my mentorship that I did with Sam that I'm gonna show you. That allowed me to really be able to understand what I was doing and do it pretty well the first year with no major, hiccups. I've been very grateful, and I think having been able to learn from Sam really helped me. And I still call him sometimes and text him when I have questions. I'll get more into Sam and who he is here shortly. So my mentors, and I say I'm the president of the fan club for 2 of my mentors. Lee Knott, she's of beekeeping at 5 Apple Farm. She's treatment free. She took me in like my 3rd year. When I couldn't keep my bees alive, she would help me with affordable nukes and stuff to keep me going, because she knew that I really wanted to do this, and she saw some potential in me, which I'm so grateful for now, because she's really encouraged me all along the way. And I encourage you guys to do this with other beekeepers that you see starting out. She would see what I needed and kind of guide me and tell me what the next steps that she thought would be good for me were, and really encouraged me to breed queens. If it wasn't for her, I don't know that I'd be doing this right now. And then, of course, Sam Comfort of Anarchy Apiaries. I was watching videos of him over winter, and he's treatment free. So that's kind of what attracted me to him originally. And, he's got like this style that's very carefree, easygoing. And that's kind of the premise of his apiary is, Anarchy Apiaries. He doesn't care what you do. It's about finding your own style and what works for you. He says he doesn't make rules for other beekeepers. That's one of his sayings. And that's what Anarchy Apiaries is he doesn't make rules for other beekeepers. But once I got to know him, you think it's gonna be so radical and carefree, but it's not. He says he has to live. He has rules. He has to live by rules. Like, he still needs structure, and we all need that. And then and that's another thing of what attracted me to him was his system. It's a very structured system that simplifies queen breeding into a easy weekly schedule. So every week you do the same thing over and over. And so another one of his sayings is that he's treatment free but not stupid, and that's kind of controversial in the treatment free world. But basically, he knows that he needs to maintain hygienic stock, which is bees that have the ability to cull the varroa mites through different means, like pulling out brood, infected brood. And he does brood breaks, regular brood breaks. So those are mechanical ways of reducing the varroa pressures in your yard. And I'm working on trying to have some supplies for my customers. This is kind of my next goal. I've been supplying nukes because I've been able to make so many queens this year. I've been able to supply nukes to people. And so I'd like to be able to supply just basic stuff like frames and equipment to the customers who come to pick up queens and nukes and whatnot. Okay, so I'm going to tell you about Sam. I should have a picture of him, but I got one next. Well, here's a picture. Here's me and Sam. This is actually in North Carolina. He dropped off those box hives in the background. They're on crates. I bought those from him to start one of my mating yards. And then those hives in the foreground, the white ones, were just ones that he was traveling up the coast north to drop off to sell. So he stopped here and so they could fly and take a little cleansing flight on their way up the coast. But going back to Sam, so I spent 2 weeks with Sam in February this year in South Florida. I have family down there. My husband's parents live down in Margate, and one of Sam's yards was like 5 minutes away. So when I found out he was working in South Florida, that's when I emailed him and I said, look, I got a place to stay. I can do bees, whatever you need, even if I can just put my eyes on what you're doing, you know, and anything I can do to help, I'd be so grateful. And so I was really lucky he responded. And I think he responded. Sometimes I wonder why, like, he chose me, or he allowed me to come and hang out with him. And I think it's because he was really attracted to this area, Asheville area. He was thinking about moving up here, having like a yard up here, doing something up here. He likes this area. And also the fact that I was able to, you know, take care of myself down there, had a place to stay and everything. So more about Sam. He's a very innovative beekeeper. So if you guys don't know who he is already, he is the designer, the inventor of the box hive, which I'm going to show you here in a couple pictures. And it's just made with rough cut lumber. Everything Sam does, it's like a lot of times if he can make it himself better than what he thinks is available on the market, he will. And so that's his box hive. And it's great. Like, I think it's great for people who are starting out beekeeping and maybe don't have the money to afford, like can't afford beekeeping, because we know it can be a very expensive hobby. So this would give people who maybe couldn't afford it the ability to still play with bees. And you know, beekeeping should be for everybody. So we'll get into his box hives, which they're really awesome. And then the one thing, I'm not gonna lie, that really piqued my interest was I was watching one of his videos, and it was like an hour-long video, and there was this tiny little snippet like 1 minute where he mentions how he does 250 queens a week for 9 weeks in Florida and 250 queens a week for 9 weeks in New York. And I pulled out my calculator and started doing the math. And I was like, oh, well, if this guy can do it, maybe I can do it. And so that was like the beginning. And then that's when I emailed him. So the weekly system I'm talking about that I was attracted to for the queen rearing is real simple. He starts his week on Sunday because in Florida there's a lot of traffic. So Sunday he can zip around. I do mine on Monday. I start Monday through Thursday. That way I've got the weekend with my family and whatnot. So day one for me, Monday, I'm just gonna say it all. It might be a little advanced for some people. Some people will totally understand what I'm saying. But day one, you boost your cell builders, which means a cell builder is the queenless hive that's gonna raise your queen cells. And so you add bees to it, you add food to it, and you make sure that they're good and ready to build you some nice fat queen cells. And on Mondays, you also graft. You do your grafting, which is taking larvae from your breeder frames, taking larvae from comb, from eggs that your breeder queens laid. So you take your favorite queens, get their larvae, and you graft them. And then day 2 and day 3 is catching queens. So you've got 3 mating yards, and you rotate. Each week you go to a different yard. So this week, let's say I'm working yard A, I'll catch all my queens. Sam does a 250 mating. He had 250 queens guaranteed per week. That means he actually has like 1,000 plus mating nukes. So he can catch 250 each week on a rotation, and then, usually up to 25% don't make it back. You won't find a queen, it'll be a miss because whatever happened, she got eaten. Maybe the cell didn't emerge. Lots of things could happen. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays I catch queens, and if those hives that I'm catching queens are like getting too full, I start making splits, and that can help me grow more yards. And then on the last day, day 4, Thursday, I drop the cells into the mating nukes that I caught the queens out of the previous 24 to 48 hours. So I go through and just put all the little cells in. And those cells that I'm dropping were started 10 days prior, the week before. They were started on Monday, the week before. So in my cell builders, I'll have 2 grafting frames sometimes. It'll be one from this week and one from last week. And then I'll pull the one from last week out and drop those cells. And then come Monday, the following Monday, I'll put more new ones in, and it just keeps rotating. And it took me a minute to figure this out and wrap my head around this. So if you don't understand it all, it's okay. But that was the premise of the whole queen breeding operation. And I've gotten it down to a 3-day operation because I don't have 250 queens a week to catch. I only do 25. So I do 1/10 of what he does. So I don't need 2 days to catch my queens. I just need 1 day. So basically I've gotten it down to a 3-day system. In the summer, the queen cells I learned like to hatch a day early. Once the weather gets to like 80 degrees, 85, the queen cells start hatching early. So I've started dropping cells a day on day 3. So I'll get my whole week done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay. So now we're going to go into the actual photo slideshow of the trip. So all that information was just kind of to help you understand what's going on here. So here's Asheville Airport. It was snowing when I left, of course, but I had to make it. It's what the airplane window looked like, and they had to hose the whole thing down. And then then the next day, this is when I got to Florida. It was so much nicer. Florida, February is the time to get out of here for me. It just helps me so much. So this is one of the mating yards. And then you'll see his little his box hives on the crates. They're the ones that are unpainted. And so this was day one. We were just checking out this yard. This was in Lake Worth. It's kind of like up by West Palm Beach and on a farm. So we just checked out this yard, and I was just checking out the scope of it. When I first saw this, it just looks like so many hives, and then they're actually all divided, so they have multiple queens inside of them. And then, so we just checked out this yard. He fixed a few things up, and then we went over to the opposite side. There's another fellow gentleman who, oh, you know what? Before I get ahead of myself, here's a picture of the box hive for you. So the box hive, also known as the comfort hive, for Sam's last name, Sam Comfort, and it's very appropriate. They're very like cute and cuddly and cozy and comforting in their own little way. And so they're made of 1x6 rough cut lumber, cut 12 inches. So the whole box is about 13 inches on the outside, and I think like 11 on the inside. And you use skewers as the top bars of your combs. So it doesn't have frames, it has combs. And then on the top, you see him peeling away that aluminum stuff is called Reflectix. And it is like a bubble wrap type insulation that you get at Lowe's. And this box hive right here, this is version, we'll call this version 1.0. He's got some new modifications to the hives that I really like, that include using a towel on top instead of that metal Reflectix. Because while it insulates and it works great, I really like the towels. You'll see why. They make less noise. But it's a real nice, it's gentle on the bees. You don't crush as many bees as you do with the Langstroth. And it takes a little getting used to when you're used to using Langstroth equipment and you don't have to think about bee space. It takes, I think it takes a season to get used to these, depending on how often you're working. Just so when you look at it, you know that the spacing is correct. We're gonna see lots of these, so I'm gonna keep going. So then he took me over to the bee dump. We took a little break, and the bee dump was on the opposite side of one of his mating yards, and it belongs to one of his friends. Bee Barf Apiary is the name of the apiary, and they do removals. So you call them if you have bees in your house or whatnot. So here's one in a bird house. It's really cute. And I mean, not everything was just removed and dumped here. I mean, a lot of them are in the bee hives where you can see they cut them out and transferred them. But this should be pretty familiar. This is a flow hive in a kind of rough shape. So someone had bees in that and didn't want it. And so here's more of the yard. Here you can see them just building right on the outside because it's warm, you know, all year round. Occasionally a swarm will build a little bit on the outside up here, but they don't have much chance. But here they do it more often in Florida. And so the reason we went over to the bee dump wasn't just to check out all the cool stuff. And I have more pictures of the bee dump later. It was to shake packages, which I had never done. But shaking packages for Sam's like something he does in his sleep. So, and this is just a cool picture because of the comb from that top bar hive there, you know, open comb. Oh, I don't think it's a top bar. It's extending off the top bar. And it's actually a free comb that they built there. And then the bracelet he's wearing, my mom and I made. It's supposed to look like pollen, the stones. My mom makes jewelry. Anyway, so here we are shaking packages. I forget who designed this great piece of equipment. I don't remember if it was, he said it was Tucka or what's the other girl's name? I can't remember right now. But it's just the Reflectix with duct tape. And we used that, and here's another side view, to shake packages out of all this crazy equipment and cutouts and things that, you know, you can't, some of this equipment you couldn't really even manipulate very well, but we were shaking bees out of it. And then here's the packages that we made that day. Some of them were really full. This one was super full. Usually you put 3 pounds in a package, and I think we were putting like 6 pounds in some of them. And these were all to take over to his production yard where he has the cell builders to raise the queens. So I don't do it exactly the same. I don't shake bees to feed my cell builders that are going to raise my queen cells. I add frames of brood to them. But this was a real good way to do it. This is an alternative way. There's like a million ways to do things. And so then here we are, we went back over to the yard where we were going to do the grafting, and brought those bees over there from the bee dump to fill the cell builders a little fuller with nurse bees so that they make bigger cells. I don't know if you can hear this. I think the audio doesn't work when I share, but there's not much to hear. So he's just spraying them down so they don't fly as much. I'm probably cool them down too. And so that green beehive has no queen in it. I'm not sure, I don't remember why you put the queens from the packages in there. I think it just maybe holds the bees for a minute so they don't leave. And then just feeding them nurse bees so that they'll raise queen cells in there. And his queen cells came out great. I mean, there's always something blooming in Florida too, it seems like, well, when we were there. And then this is raw sugar that he uses. He gets it, Florida has the cane fields. Belle Glade, I think, is where they do all the growing of the sugar cane. And so he could get a really good deal on the raw sugar. And so he actually feeds them raw sugar, which I thought you weren't allowed to do. But as long as they aren't overwintering on it, because then they're okay. Because it just has a higher amount of particulates that they have to, you know, poop out. And so as long as they're not stuck in winter with all those extra particulates in their gut, they're okay. So in season, when they're flying, you can actually feed them. This was the best alternative for South Florida. So this is the yard, this is the yard where the queen breeders are. The breeder queens were all kind of in the back of that yard there. And then in the front, that's the cell builders that are making the queen cells. And I'm just playing with my filters, my lenses. And so he invited 2 of our friends, Ange and B, who also do queen breeding and raise nukes in Florida in the wintertime, to come help. They would help graft and they would help catch. Mainly on catching days is a day where everybody gets together and pitches in and gets it done. So here we are. And so Sam's grafting under a towel. This is how he grafts. I mean, Sam, like, just what you need, you know, just like he just gets it done with all the basics, not too much, not much frills. And so he's under a towel, keeps it kind of moist. And that's how I started grafting when I got back from Florida. And he's got his little headlamp on. The frame in his hand is the one that he made for the box hives. It's a grafting frame for the box hives. And then under a jacket, there's Ange grafting. Okay, so that was grafting day. And that's Mondays for me, Sundays for him. And then the next day is going to be catching day, where we go and we catch the queens. So I got to ride in the back of the van, which is full of stuff. And it looks crazy, but looking at it now, it's like totally normal. It's totally normal. All the boxes all piled up, the weed eater, because I get to weed eat, and all the reflectics for the box hives. So I got to sit in the back that day because in the front was my friend Sarah. These are all my friends now, but that was the first day I'd met her. She helps me now. But anyways, I got to sit in the back, and it was awesome. All the way to Miami. And we just talked bees the whole way. Whenever on the drives, and we would always drive together every morning, and like I would have all my questions from the night before written down, and I would just, basically interview them every morning, just like go over what I saw, did I understand it, and just random questions. So so this is catch day. We went with Sarah, and this is in Miami. This is called Opalaka. It's Miami. It's like out there, Miami. And this property was on an old junkyard from the 70s.
Can I please have that bag?
No. So this in the 70s was a landfill, not a junkyard. And then this tree that's broken here fell on top of a bunch of his hives, unfortunately. But and it stayed there. It was so heavy, it basically stayed there for a while. He said, "But there's Sam with the broken." And I don't remember if it was a hurricane or what that brought that tree down. But every time there's a hurricane, he has to like run down there, make sure the bees are okay. So here's a little video of that landfill. He had 2 mating yards on it. One on the north side and one on the south side. And this is the north side. And it's like a storage facility next to it. And then he just recently found out that he has to move this huge apiary. There's 600 hives here, because they're building another storage unit. But the cool thing about this was that he was able to get them an agricultural exemption. He had to go to court and everything to prove that what they were doing was agriculture. And so they were able to get a landfill and agricultural tax exemption because of the bees. Okay, so here's the box hives. Here he started showing me what some of his new upgrades, we'll call them, to the box hives. Here he has a t-shirt on top. And so he was trying different fabrics to see what would work well as an inner cover, just to try to get rid of the plastic of the reflectics a little bit, and just to try to be able to use something that is more accessible to more people. Old t-shirts. Well, he ended up, I'll keep going. With the t-shirts here, you can see that the bees chewed holes through them. But what's cool is you see how they propolize the t-shirt. Propolis is very good for bees' immune system. They do what is called, they create a propolis envelope around the whole beehive. So they're pretty much totally protected by their own propolis, like an envelope of their own propolis in nature. So here you can visually see that propolis all over the t-shirt, but they made holes, unfortunately, through it. So that t-shirts weren't the solution. You can even see a couple of hive beetles there, 1, 2, 3 that were trapped in there. They trap them in real good with those t-shirts. But what he ended up finding was towels work the best, and I love the towels. And then here, instead of putting the skewers that you see, the bamboo skewers, instead of putting them on rests, the boxes used to have little rests on the inside, bar rests. For the skewers now, he puts them straight across the top. And I really like that. Personally, it works better for me. And so here's a picture. So sometimes, used for the queens, I always run the boxes just single, which is like 6 inches tall. But for overwintering and things like that. You can put 2 boxes on top of each other, or multiple. You can stack them as tall as you want, and then here you can just let them keep drawing down if you'd like. So here you see it's a nice brood pattern, and we just thought it looked like a cute little mitten, the way they made the comb. Here's another picture of the box hive with the skewers across the top. Here's another one where they drew it long. And you really got to double up the skewers, I think, if they're going to be that long, probably because of the weight. But it's cool. It's all natural, you know. And then, so here we are on the south side of the junkyard, catching queens. That was our job. I caught 12 queens in 8 hours. So what is it? Yeah, 1.5 queens per hour, which I'm way faster now. I can catch way faster. But it's not so daunting anymore. You definitely get better and you get quicker with experience. And I'm so grateful that he let me practice with his queens in his yard, because that's huge. So here's Sarah and Sam. I might have been sprinkling on and off that day, so we had the umbrella. And there's more pictures of the yard. And like I said, all of these are split. One of the days we went through and we would catch the queens out of each one of these beehives and then put a divider in. I'll show you the dividers. Here's Sam catching queen. I wish I had a whole video of it. But he's catching them and marking them for shipping. These are so we catch the queens, we put them in these little cages, these JZBZ plastic cages. And these have some fondant food and some cotton balls, probably with water for moisture, for water for the bees during shipping. These queens went to California overnight. They went to another famous beekeeper, which is really cool, catching queens for her. And then we shook some what's called cover bees on top of them. So when you're shipping bees, if you ship them individually, just the queen inside the cage, you got to put some cover bees on top to keep the queens fed and warm during transport. They do everything. They fan to make like a little air conditioner. They can heat, they can huddle up to help keep them a little warmer. Shipping is fascinating. Very intimidating. But I've had really good luck with it this year. Here they are going off to California in the little fancy box. Usually if it's in that box, it's going UPS. Now here's some more of the box hives. So you see the stack here of 3 boxes. That means, that's like potentially 6 queens in there. I've kept mine single story high because when they're that tall, it's kind of intimidating to me. You have to set aside the top 2 boxes while you work the bottom boxes. And meanwhile, all those bees are in your face flying home. So I've kept it single story. But now that I've gotten faster and more efficient, I think I could do double 2-story, no problem, without being so intimidated anymore. But you see him here using his little butter knife. That's the tool. He jokes that, he'll look in the bee catalogs and he can just throw the whole thing away because he doesn't need anything in it. Most of the things in it. Because he uses guy's butter knife, and the butter knife you just use to cut. Sometimes the comb will attach opposite the entrance side, so whatever the side that's opposite the entrance will sometimes attach to the wall. The bees will attach it, so you use the knife just to free it, and usually you just free it one time and that's it, and they don't reattach it. Or you can just wiggle. Sometimes you wiggle the side that's not attached and you can free the other. You get to, when you first start working you break combs and you drop combs, but with time you learn the beehive and how to handle it so that it's just a very smooth to work it. So here's the cute little radio flyers. And this is what we would use to sit on to do our work. So we'd have a telescoping cover and a radio flyer wagon. And we would just go beehive to beehive, catching our queens. And then since it was the early season, we were splitting the hives. So we would catch the queen and drop one of those metal dividers that you see in the front, in the middle of the beehive, so that would split it into two. So then he could then go back the next day and put 2 queen cells in to start raising the next batch of queens. The little skewers there in the wagon, black Sharpie to write on the lids. The little baby smoker. We like never really lit the smokers. You just kind of puff it right around the edge when you open the hive up, just to kind of turn them around. So the little smoker was good for that. Oh. So here's another picture of the box hive and me working it. I got the queen out, you know, so I'm really happy about that. And then I put the divider in, so I'm super excited. I think I did a good job. And I take a picture, thumbs up. And then I look at it when I get home and I realize I'm missing a skewer in the back side of the hive. Hopefully I did put one in, maybe I didn't. But yeah, so that's what we do. If the hive is like nice and full, we'll pull a frame out and use it for a split and then put a new skewer in. But this is kind of what I was doing. A little bit about a system that I use now is I write on the lids of all my beehives. He uses a black Sharpie, and when we would catch the queen, we would put -Q. So on the bottom of that tile there, you see -Q, and that lines up with the entrance of the beehive. And then he has all different, what do you say, little logos for what that indicate what you did to the hive. So SP means that we split it. So it used to be one whole hive, but we split it. And then -Q means we took the queen out. So you can see the history of the beehive on the top of every hive. And it's just worked out great for me. I've expanded on this a little bit. So -Q, split, MIA, missing in action. This is when there's eggs and larvae, but we can't find the queen. There's another symbol was a null. The 0 with the line through it means it was a miss. She didn't come back. There's no eggs and larvae in the hive. And then there's other ones. So we were out there catching queens. The days get long. I mean, you're trying to catch 250 queens. And you know, all of a sudden this like swarm appears out of nowhere. And then you see Sam in the background, not even paying any attention, couldn't care less. This is just another day. He's in the back right. And this would happen all the time, swarms coming and going. And he'd just keep doing his job, just keep working. And then once they figured out what they were doing, he would just walk up to them and grab the queens out of them and deal with them. And then I couldn't figure out where the swarm was coming from or where they were, like where they were, where's the queen? It just didn't make sense. And then I found them on the backside here, all over the queens that we had caught. So that orange bar is all the queens that we caught. And the swarm smelled the queen pheromone and landed on, and apparently that happens all the time also. And I think there was multiple virgins in this swarm. So that's the bar of queens that we were catching and adding to. And the massive swarm that just landed on them. Oh, this is, that's a horrible picture, but it's the Hard Rock Casino guitar, and the laser points out of the top. It's a new thing in South Florida. It's crazy. It looks like Las Vegas. Okay, so the next day, so we went through grafting, we went through catching the queens, and now we're going to drop queen cells back into the mating nukes that we caught the queens out of the day before. So these queen cells are going to replace those queens, and we're going to give them 3 weeks to get mated, lay for a while, and then they'll be caught again in the way the system works. So this is an incubator. It keeps them nice and toasty warm, 93 degrees plus or minus 1 degree. And he actually, sometimes he'll buy queen cells from Mixa, as a famous producer of queen cells, the Mixa family. They've been doing it for a long time. They're based out of Central Florida. And so if he has, a presentation on a Monday, or he needs to go out of town or something, sometimes he'll go and he'll buy queen cells from the Mixas to be able to deviate from his schedule. So that's what he did here. And then here's the queen cells. We drop them into the mating nukes. That's what it looks like after the queen's been caught. 24 hours later, we put those in. And then, so I think this is later in the day, I was weed eating, and we were finding beehives, like all these long lost beehives in the brush. And under one of them was this crate, a crate hive. Instead of a box hive, it's a crate hive. And that literally is just an open air hive under the crate, that swarm that moved in under there. And they were getting ready to swarm. So we just left them. A few more pictures. This is back. Okay, so here we went back over to the yard. This is a queen catching day. We met up with Ange and Bee again of They Keep Bees, and to catch queens on the farm up in West Palm. And that's when I took more pictures of the bee dump. So this is where bee barf drops off some of the strange things bees move into. So this is like one of those Venetian ceramic vases. I mean, you'd think they would need a top, but nope. Here, I don't know where these bees were coming from. I could not figure it out, but they were just coming out of the ground in the bee dump. Here's the one that was in the bird house. It's just crazy what a large entrance they have. If you know anything about swarm traps, that's a very large entrance to have. But it's cool. You can just, it's like an observation hive. Birdhouse. This looks just like a birdhouse my friend's parents had with bees in it in Florida. Subwoofer speakers. I don't think the bees were alive in there anymore, but they were once. Here, this is one of those composting rolly things. And I think they're just using the little holes as their entrances. This one's just cute. It's got the Miami colors, Art Deco, pink and blue. Looks like a mouse or something's opened up the entrance. So here we are, one of the last times catching. And it's Sarah with the yellow shirt in the middle. She helps me a lot now here in North Carolina. Her parents live in Maggie Valley, or they have a place in Maggie Valley. So she helps me. She delivers queens down towards Asheville for me. And then that's Ange and Bee in the blue and orange. They're from They Keep Bees in Massachusetts. They do queens and nukes. And then there's Sam. He's teaching us some stuff. He taught us how to drum the queens up and smoke them up that day. So he would like, you know, he would take a little bit of time to show us other things. But they would, this was mostly his crew that would help him with the queen catching. And so I'm really grateful to have met all of them. They're really awesome people. That I'm grateful to have in my life still. So here's Sarah and Ange and I. And Ange and B, they would travel in that big red van. They spent all their whole summer or winter in Florida with the big red van. It's called like Clifford the Big Red Van or something. It has its own Instagram. And so that was most of the queen operation. I'm just going to show you a few of his little like inventions and oddities that, you know, make Sam so unique. This is cow dung that was in his smoker that I was had to light, just because he'll just use whatever's around, you know. Obviously cow dung, perfect. Here is a grafting frame that he made for the box hives. So, you know, and he likes to tear up Langstroth equipment. He says it's therapeutic for him. So it's probably made of like old Lang frames. And then this was cool. So you guys, maybe you know about swarm traps when you put up a beehive to catch wild swarms or even your own just outside your apiary. One of his friends would put these stickers on it, and this sticker looks like an official sticker. And I mean, it's an official sticker for them, but it has their Florida Department of Agriculture apiary number on it and their phone number, and it says, you know, do not remove or disturb questions. If you have any questions or to report bees present, you know, call this phone number. So basically, he puts these stickers, these bumper stickers on his swarm traps, and people call him because they see this official looking sticker and they say, hey, you know, you have bees here in box number, you know, whatever. And so they're reporting the swarms that have moved in for him. I just thought it was great. It was great. It was clever. You know, people see that and they think, okay, it's legitimate, because I mean, it is. It's just a nice way to legitimize your swarm traps, I think. Just put a nice official sticker on there. And then, you know, this is just a planter pot with skewers on top. You already kind of know where this is going. Put a tile on top and you got a beehive. This I really liked. I mean, this is like a really quick, really easy way to make a beehive. Yeah, I'll show you the breakdown, but it's a, you know, it's a top bar hive, and all you need is a table saw, and it literally goes together in pieces. So those are the 4 pieces that fit together, and then you would put, you know, your bars across the top and something to cover it. You know, you could put a towel if you wanted, a towel and a tile, or you know, the Reflectix, or another piece of plywood. And then your entrance would just be that little gap between the bottom and the sideboard. But that I thought was really cool, easy. And he says he can make a beehive out of, just give him a dumpster and he can make a beehive, you know, out of anything. Here's an observation hive he made for the box hive combs, you know, so it'll fit the little combs. And then on the bottom of the observation hive, you see little silicone molds that he made for grafting. So he just took the JZBZ cups and covered them in silicone and made little molds, little wax molds, so that, you know, it's just a way to save plastic if you wanted to make your own molds. There's other ways, obviously, but it's just cool to see how creative he is with the bees. What else? He showed me how he did his system of keeping his orders, you know, and his graphs and all that, keeping track of it all, which I'm not going to get into, but it really helped me stay organized. Just having systems is crucial to being able to enjoy what you're doing and not being stressed about remembering everything. We're almost done. Just a few little animal pictures. This is a little frog that was between the feeder and the wall of the beehive. One of the hives had lizard eggs in it. Little, oh, there's just so many crazy animals down there, different than what I'm used to seeing here. These were all the creatures that would come visit. I don't know why I put this in here. Fresh green bananas, 28 cents. It's amazing. Cannot find that here. And then that junkyard had tons of fire ants. So all of us had blisters all over our ankles because of the fire ants in Florida. Here is data point. This is a piece of paper he gave me to share with people whenever they were making splits. So Sam is now working on grants. He got a couple of SARE grants. So he's ready to kind of transition out of queen production. He's made a lot of queens, and he's ready to just start having fun doing research. And he did end up getting a piece of property in Rutherfordton, where he's thinking of using it maybe for like a bee school. And so he's got like a lot of cool and interesting things on the horizon. It'll be, I figure he's probably gonna write a book at some point. It'll probably be like a zine, a handwritten, photocopied zine, because that's his style. But yeah, he's got 2 SARE grants, and they're both on researching the quality of queens. One of them is comparing 2-day-old grafted queen cells, 10-day-old grafted queen cells, and walkaway splits, and what kind of quality you get from starting your queens through those 3 different methods. And that one he's working with Ange on from They Keep Bees. And then this one was, you make a split using his recipe: 1 comb of brood, 1 comb of nectar, 2 shakes of bees, and then you write down all these different data points, like what the weather was like, just different things about the split, to see what it is that makes a good queen. Is it the weather? Is it how much nurse bees is in there? Just all the different factors. And then you record, if they were superseded. I got 10 queens from him for one of the SARE grants, and I don't know how they were developed, if they came from walkaway splits or queen cells or what. My job is just to track them and see how they do, and then based on the information he gets back, hopefully he'll be able to know what makes the best queens. So far, just preliminary results I probably shouldn't even be sharing. When the bees make their own queens, they make a really good queen. So here's a picture of my bee yards now that I've learned from Sam, and I kind of applied what I learned there into my yards. I have 1 bee yard that is box hives. I use his comfort hives. You can see on the bottom left. That top left picture is where I keep my breeder queens and my cell builders and stuff. And those 2 on the right are Langstroth queen castles that I use for my mating yards. So I just rotate those 3 mating yards. But yeah, I just transferred everything I learned from Sam and everything that he does in the box hives to Langstroth, which was pretty easy to do. His system and everything like that was easy to transfer to Langstroth. Oops, almost done. Okay, and this is my information. If you guys ever want to get a hold of me, I have a website, moralbees.com. I sell queens. I'm pretty much wrapping up queen sales for this year because I've got to get all my own hives queen right. But you guys are welcome to get on my list for next year. I'll be doing nuke sales as well. Yeah, and that's that. That was my experience. And if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer.